All right, good morning, everybody. This is Shane Kiso, your chair for the MEG Transportation Safety Committee. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Things as we first start off, just remember here, everybody in the room here today, thank you for being here in person. And we do have individual microphones, so just ask that you mind your microphone, meaning if you talk, please turn your microphone on, and vice versa. When you do not talk, turn your microphone off. Also, those participating digitally by Zoom or phone, please mind your microphones there as well. That's also very important to unmute yourself then after you're done talking. Make sure we don't have that background noise to bother or disrupt the meeting in any way. For those on the phone, remember participants use *6 to mute and *9 to unmute. And then also you have the option to raise your hand. So we'll try to keep an eye on that, but please, if you have something, just verbally inject as well. That works as well. All right, we'll go ahead and make a roll call here. So I'll ask Mohammed if you go ahead and do the roll call, make sure we have quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member of the Transportation Safety Committee. This is a roll call for attendance for the Transportation Safety Committee. Saroja Devarakonda as proxy for Kerry Wilcoxon from ADOT.
Good morning, everyone. This is Saroja from ADOT.
Raj Thoram from City of Avondale.
Good morning, everyone. This is Raj Thoram from City of Avondale. Present.
Raymond Huang from City of Chandler.
Good morning, I'm here.
Nick Russo from City of El Mirage. Chris Salas from Town of Florence. Aaron Pinkerton from Town of Gilbert. Tony Abbo from City of Glendale.
Good morning, Tony Abbo present.
Hugh Biak, City of Goodyear proxy. Kate Grunaski from Litchfield Park.
Present.
Kerry Osborne from City of Maricopa.
Present.
Mazen Muradovich from Maricopa County.
Present, guys. Just a heads up, please. I have echo in the audio.
Right. Stefan Bach from City of Mesa.
Good morning, I'm present.
Brandon Furry from City of Peoria.
Present, and I'm not experiencing an echo.
Carl Langford from City of Phoenix.
Present.
Tara Harman from Pinal County.
Present.
Yuan Martin from Town of Queen Creek.
Good morning. Present.
Sam Taylor from City of Scottsdale.
I'm here.
Dana Oziani from City of Surprise.
Hello, I'm here.
Ellie Voluzin from City of Tempe. Adrian Ruiz from Valley Metro.
Present.
Sergeant Michael Hunt from DPS.
Present.
And John Willett from Buckeye.
Good morning, present.
That concludes the roll call, Mr. Chair, and we have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the second item here today, and it's call to audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MEG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to audience agenda items unless the committee requests the exception to this limit. Members of the public who are attending in person may deliver their comments from the lectern at the front of the room. You have up to 3 minutes to complete your comments. Meg staff will notify you when we have 1 minute remaining and when your allotted time has expired. I have not received any written request cards for the agenda item this morning. I just ask if there are any other people in the public here today who desire to speak on this item. See any? So Mohammed, do we have any other comments, I guess, that came in?
Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee, we received no comments for this item or any other item.
All right, thank you. We'll move to item 3, which is approval of the minutes. This is approval of minutes from the Transportation Safety Committee held on January 24th, 2023. Does any member of the Transportation Safety Committee have any comments or revisions to these meeting minutes from January 24th? All right, I am not hearing any, so do I have a motion from anybody to recommend approval of the January 24th minutes?
This is Tony Abel. I make a motion that we approve.
Thank you, Tony. Do I have a second?
This is Carl. I'm second.
Think I heard Carl. We'll give it to Carl. Thank you, Carl.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second from Tony and then a second from Carl. We will have a voice vote for those in the room here today. So say aye if you're in favor, nay if you are not, and then if you do not, just please say if you're also abstaining. So we'll start with A's first. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nay? Any abstentions? No. All right, we have 1 abstention. So those for virtually, if I could have Mohammed, if you could do a roll call to get a vote for those virtual.
Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee, this is a roll call for the vote of those attending virtually for the minutes approval. Saroja Devarakonda on behalf of Carrie Wilcoxon from ADA.
Aye.
Raj Thoram from City of Avondale.
Aye.
Raymond Huang from City of Chandler.
Aye.
Nick Russo from El Mirage. Tony Abbo from City of Glendale.
Aye.
Kate Runaski from Litchfield Park.
Aye.
Carrie Osborne from City of Maricopa.
Aye.
Mazen Muradovich from Maricopa County.
Aye.
Stefan Beck from City of Mesa.
Aye.
Brandon Furry from City of Peoria.
Aye.
Carl Langford from City of Phoenix.
Aye.
Tara Harman from Pinal County.
Aye.
Jan Martin from Town of Queen Creek.
Abstain?
Dana Oziani from City of Surprise.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes and that concludes the roll call for the minutes approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Move on to item number 4, which is a program manager's report. This is for information. Ms. Herrera will provide a report on items of general interest to the Transportation Safety Committee. So this is for information. If you have any questions with the committee afterwards, feel free to contact her after the meeting. Margaret?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. I'd like to echo the chair's sentiment with regard to it's nice to see those of you in the room today, as well as those of you that could join us virtually. And just a reminder that if you're not speaking, if you could please mute your microphone if you attending virtually. I do have about 5 items today that we'll try to get through rather quickly. We have a full agenda. Next slide, please. So we have some project updates. Some are kind of leftover from fiscal year 2022. We have some 2023 that are coming up here. The first is the CME AZ program. We're going to have a little bit more detailed but brief update from Chris Gottsacker on the next slide. For the fiscal year 2022 RSAs, we do have one in the city of Phoenix that is scheduled for April this year. So we should be able to have that complete by June 30th or the end of the fiscal year. For fiscal year 2022 Safe Routes to School studies, again, we do have one school in the city of Phoenix that we will be completing here by the end of June as well. Fiscal year 2023 Safe Routes to School studies are well underway at this time. We started Buckeye just recently. I believe that we are doing some school observations this week. In fact, today, Chris has come in hot from doing some observations this morning, and he'll be back out doing those. So we're moving right along on our fiscal year 2023 Safe Routes to School studies. And that includes the Peoria study for a little bit more dynamic educational walking and biking route maps. We do have the fiscal year 2023 bicyclist and pedestrian safety analysis. This is the one that we are doing in partnership with our emerging technologies program. And those will be getting underway here soon. We issued some notice to proceed yesterday and we'll complete those notice to proceed this week. So that work can get underway. And then we do have the fiscal year 2022 predictive safety implementation tool, and we are currently in contract negotiations with University of Connecticut for that work. And we hope to or anticipate issuing notice to proceed on that work in mid to late April. Next slide, please. And now I'd like to invite Chris Gottsacker to give us a quick update on CME AZ.
Thank you, Margaret, Chair, and members of the Transportation Safety Committee. So in February, we had our last CME AZ Task Force meeting. One of the main items for discussion was member agency engagements and promotion of the materials that we have in our toolkit. So we have seen some increase interest among member agencies, which has been fantastic. Particularly City of Mesa has been more engaged recently. One of their PIOs we've been working closely with. We're always seeking more partnership and engagement though. So, and again, I'll reiterate that we can get creative. We can adjust our materials in a variety of different ways or formats as needed. We just cannot pay for printing of materials. Yeah, always looking for more. We also discussed that we were in market for advertising before, during, and a week after the Super Bowl and Waste Management Open. We reviewed those results. They performed exceptionally well, even compared to benchmark data. We comparatively did very well, so we are glad to see that. We also received 2022 survey results and we reviewed those with the task force. Basically, this was our second annual survey. And at this point, we have a pretty good idea about the public perceptions and knowledge of traffic safety in the region. Most of the items remained relatively the same. However, we did see we have seen a gradual increase in the portion of the public that believes traffic safety is a shared responsibility. So that's up from about 60% to about 70%. So we're very happy to see that, given that it is one of the tenets of the safe system approach and main goal of the program. So then moving forward, we are still working with Federal Highway Administration as part of the focused approach to safety. We have finalized that scope of work with, I believe it's VHB as a consultant that they're working with for this program. And we're looking forward to kick that work off and also continue to engage with the task force as a part of that. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Chris. Next slide, please. Moving right along. So just kind of give a shout out, since this committee meets every other month, I'm not going to have another opportunity just to kind of remind you about this. Those of you that have received roadway safety program funds through MAG, in the first 5 cycles, we have an annual reporting that needs to be done. I'm trying to make it a little bit easier, trying to develop an Excel format fillable form for you that will be can link directly into the 2023 RSP annual report that will come before this committee in July. The deadline this year is going to be June 8th. So look for the email to initiate that here coming up soon. The one new thing that we are requiring this year is that, or starting this year, is that if you have received funds from for RSP, that you report 5 years of data from the date that you implemented the safety improvement. So we want a good comparison so that we can at some point do some before and after studies for these programs to assess the performance of this program. Next slide, please. And again, I'm going to invite Chris Gottzecker to talk a little bit about the 2023 crossing guard training workshops.
Thank you, Margaret, Chair, and members of the Transportation Safety Committee. We're very excited to share that we are committing to 3 in-person workshops again this year. This is huge for us. Last year, we had 1 in-person training, and the 2 years prior were completely virtual. So going back to 3 in-person, 1 oriented for the West Valley, 1 for the Central, and 1 for to be more convenient for the East Valley crossing guards. So very exciting. These will all be taking place probably around the end of July into early August, depending on availability and when it's suitable for those guards to do so based on district calendars. Invitations will be sent out in April, and then a reminder will be sent shortly before the training as well. The training includes a variety of crossing guard scenarios and crossing scenarios in general that guards might encounter. We review some traffic laws for safety, as well as health and welfare for crossing guards. And we've received lots of positive feedback from both guards and school districts pretty much every year that we've done this training. So it is very important to the region. And I also want to thank all of our member agencies that help make it a reality. It does take a significant amount of collaboration, particularly in finding those venues that can support the training. So thank you all. Thank you, Margaret.
Sure, just make a quick note. When we do send out the invitations, we will copy the safety committee on that, and we would respectfully ask if you could distribute that to the schools and the districts that you work with. We would really appreciate that. Thank you. Next slide, please. So this update is really just kind of some takeaways from the Federal Highway Administration Safe System Workshop that was held here on March 7th. I want to thank those of you that were able to attend that here in person in the Saguaro room that day. It was an interesting workshop. They frame them as pilot workshops because really what they are doing is assessing their framework for the toolkit that they are developing. And so they're going to be taking feedback from the participants and fine tuning that toolkit to have a release of that here in the near future. I believe that they're getting ready to wrap up their pilot workshops and will be providing us with some finalized frameworks. The morning portion of it, we went through 3 different scenarios in both rural and urban to kind of assess the alternatives and see how it aligned with safe system elements and principles. In the afternoon, we took a look at their policy framework for their toolkit, and they applied some scoring to the Regional Safety Action Plan or the Strategic Transportation Safety Plan that we that has been approved since June of 2021. What I'm hoping to get from that is some good input for including in the scope of work, because it's that time again to start updating the strategic transportation safety plan. So I'm hoping to get some good feedback on how we can further align our planning document, our safety planning document to safe systems. So look for that coming soon. The other thing that we're thinking about doing, there were many of you that were able to attend, but there are also a lot of you that were not able to attend. So we're thinking about having the consultant that FHWA is working with come in May and just kind of give a brief overview of the workshop and some results from their refinement of their toolkit. So look for that possibly on the May agenda. Next slide, please. Actually, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Chris? We'll move on to item number 5. This is the Regional Priority Safety Implementation Toolkit, the consultant selection. The fiscal year 2022-23 MEG Biennial Unified Planning Work Program and Budget approved by the MEG Regional Council on May 26, 2021 includes $250,000 to develop the Regional Priority Safety Implementation Toolkit, for short RP-SIT. In October 2022, MEG advertised a request for proposals to solicit firms to submit proposals for developing the RP-SIT. MEG staff at this time will provide an overview of the RFP process and evaluation team recommendations. And I guess I'll pass this to Margaret to introduce this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. This project, we are very excited to get underway here soon. A lot of you have asked me, when we developed the Strategic Transportation Safety Plan, we really did a lot of work to kind of understand what safe system was. Now that we have a little bit better grasp of what that is, we would like to provide a toolkit, something interactive for member agencies to kind of see how that could be put into practice as it relates to the project planning process. So this is a fiscal year 2023 work program project. As you can imagine, this is a very unique set of work that needs to be done to develop this toolkit. We spent over a year actually putting the scope together for this. We did only receive one proposal for this, but we've worked very hard with that consultant to determine if we wanted to, if they could provide exactly what we needed. And we are confident that moving forward with Burgess and Nipel on this would be beneficial for not just this toolkit, but eventually for you all as the end user of this toolkit. So we do have a budget of $250,000. We anticipate this being a 24-month project. And again, it's going to be an interactive guide and resource for you all. Are there any questions?
All right, no questions. It looks like MEG is looking for a motion for our recommended approval on this consultant selection. So if I have a motion out there from anybody to move forward with the I guess motion to move forward with this proposal.
City of Litchfield Park, this is Keith. I make a motion.
Thank you, Keith. Any second?
Adrian Reese, second.
Thank you, Adrian. All right, we got a motion and a second by Keith, Adrian. We'll get a voice vote here in the room. So those in favor say aye.
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 Those say no in the room? Hearing none. Any abstain in the room? All right, Mr. Shahid, can you take a roll call to get a vote for those attending virtually?
Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee, this is a roll call for those attending virtually for item number 5. Saroja Devarakonda on behalf of Kerry Wilcoxon from ADOT,
Aye.
Raj Toram from City of Avondale,
Aye.
Raymond Huang from City of Chandler,
Aye.
Tony Abbo from City of Glendale,
Aye.
Kate Runaski from City of Litchfield Park,
Aye.
Carrie Osborne from City of Maricopa,
Aye.
Mazen Muradovich from Maricopa County,
Aye.
Stefan Beck from City of Mesa,
Aye.
Brandon Furry from City of Peoria,
Aye.
Carl Langford from City of Phoenix,
Aye.
Tara Harmon from Pinal County,
Aye.
Jan Martin from Town of Queen Creek,
Aye.
Dana Oziani from City of Surprise.
Aye.
Are there any participating members that I have missed? With that, the motion passes, Mr. Chair, and concludes the roll call. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mohammed. If there's no other discussion on that, we'll move on to item.
Can I just make a
Yep.
couple of quick
Margaret, come.
next step comments? Those of you who served on the evaluation team for the RFP for this project will be part of the task, the tag for the development of the toolkit. In addition to that, we're going to be identifying about 5 local agencies to help us do beta testing when we get to that point. And of course, because this committee has oversight to all the programs and projects that we administer for safety here at MAG, we will be providing regular updates at the safety committee meetings regarding the development. Thank you.
Margaret, I had a question. This is Sam. Will we get to review any draft documents associated with this, the committee?
Absolutely. Yes, we will probably give it to the tag first, but ahead of presenting anything, any update at the safety committee, we can definitely distribute those materials for your review.
All right, there's no other questions. Move on to looks like item 6. All right, item 6 is fiscal year 23 local agency safety studies, or as we know it, the LAS program. This item is for information and discussion. The fiscal year 22-23 MAG Biennial Unified Planning Work Program and Budget approved by the MAG Regional Council on May 26, 2021 includes $100,000 to provide technical assistance to local agencies for conducting road safety studies, which are performed by pre-qualified MAG on-call consultants. Project applications are made available on the MAG website and open for requests starting at the beginning of each fiscal year, July 1st. Applications submitted by the fiscal year 23 deadline of March 6, 23 include 4 applications, 3 from Avondale and 1 from Buckeye. MAG staff will provide an overview of the last program, and representatives from the City of Avondale, City of Buckeye will provide a brief presentation on their requested projects. Pass it on. Margaret, start us out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. Yes, this is our fiscal year 2023 local agency safety study program. We're happy to get the 4 applications this year, and it looks like some good projects. And without further delay, I'd like to go ahead and invite, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mohammed, for advancing and reminding me. So as we mentioned before, we did receive 4 applications. We are recommending to the committee before we get presentations here today that we combine 2 of the Avondale, and you'll see when Raj provides his presentation on this, that these 2 intersections are very close to each other, although they're very complex intersections. So we'd like to combine those 2 projects into one, which provides us an opportunity to put more money into the Buckeye study, which they had only requested $10,000 originally. We feel like in coordination with the city of Buckeye, that the $20,000 would be more sufficient for the type of project or this type of study that they're looking for. So again, without further delay, we'll invite, next slide, please, Mr. Raj Dautam from the city of Avondale. If you could unmute and provide us your presentation on this first request.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Chair and members of MAC Safety Committee. Good morning, everyone. This request is for two intersections that are like less than half a mile away from I-10. We have a Coldwater Plaza on the south and Rancho Santa Fe on the north. For the Coldwater Plaza,
You may have inadvertently muted yourself, Raj.
thank you, Margaret. Sorry, I pressed the key button. But anyway, so this intersection, the one on the south, the Coldwater Plaza, is ranked 97 in recent MAG network screening. We like to find out what's the cause of this number of accidents. We are having almost like one accident every other day at this location. We found 148 crashes happen between 2017 and 2021. Currently, we have protected permissive left-hand facing for northbound and southbound traffic with no positive left-hand offsets. We assume at this time that that is the cause, but we like to find out the real reason for these number of accidents. So we're requesting this RSA study to be conducted at this location, and the similar thing happening at Dysart Road and Rancho Santa Fe. We noticed that that there are 215. There were about 124 crashes between 2017 and 2021, ranked in the MAC screening as 215th location. Similar thing, we have no positive left-hand offsets, and we have protected permissive left-hand facing, but both northbound and southbound. So we'd like to conduct the RSS study at this location as well. Mohammed, next slide, please.
Maybe we could pause and see if there are any questions regarding these two projects first before we go on to the next one, Raj.
Okay, yes. Does anyone have any questions on this one?
Raj, this is Ellie. Are both the side streets primarily residential access?
For the south intersection, it's primarily for commercial activities. I mean, like we have major generators like Home Depot, Sam's Club, and other minor commercial spaces. Currently, we have about 40,000 ADT on the main corridor, the Dysart, and about 20,000 on the side streets.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Raj?
This is Raymond with Chandler. Will this project also look at the TI, the off-ramp as well as a part of this, or?
That's under that comes under, that falls under actually ADOT. So that is something we probably may coordinate through ADOT. I mean, like if that traffic needs to be considered for these studies.
Okay, so ADOT control the signal on that TI?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, anything else for Raj? All right, we'll move on.
Okay, this next intersection is about 2.5 miles north of I-10. This is at Dysart Road Indian School. We have a similar issues here. This intersection is ranked as 275 in recent magnet risk screening. Currently, there's one accident happening every 3 to 4 days. We got protected permissive phasing for northbound and southbound left turns, with zero positive offset. We think there's the same reason that the accidents are happening in that location. So we like to find out what's causing it, and we'd like to implement the countermeasures as soon as the study is completed. And we have the same number of the ADTs on Dysart, and about 25,000 vehicles on Indian School Road at this location.
All right, thank you, Raj. Any questions for Raj on this one? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Raj. We'll move
Thank you,
on.
Chair. Yeah, that concludes my presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Raj. And now we
Thank you,
have
Margaret.
Willett from the town, or sorry, the city of Buckeye. That was a while since it's been the town, to provide us a presentation on his request.
Thank you, Margaret, Chair, committee members. This intersection at Sundance Parkway and Rainbow Road has basically come out of nowhere to become an issue with Buckeye. Immediately north of the speed limit of 45 is Yuma Road. It's one of our major east-west roads just south of I-10. What's hard to tell from here, though, so let me back up a little bit. So from the year 2020 and 2021, we had a total of 3 accidents in this intersection. Since early 2022, we've had 7, including a fatality. And the sad thing is shortly after I submitted this application, we had another crash. And so they just keep popping up. To the east, past the speed limit of 30, a subdivision recently completed Sundance Parkway that now creates a continuous loop, and it goes right past an elementary school. So we think prior to that loop, that road being connected, anybody who lived in this area that you see on the screen had to go up Rainbow to Yuma, east over to Dean, then back down to go to school. Now with that road being connected, we think there are just a lot of people going straight across on Sundance across Rainbow. I've gone out and looked, the city engineers gone out and looked, we've all gone out and looked. There is not a sight visibility problem. We don't know why there are crashes keep happening. We can't figure out why. So we were going to do a study internal, and then in talking to Margaret, she says, well, we have this LASS, so we submitted it. The reason I submitted a lower fee initially is basically I just kind of wanted someone to go out there and just look at it and say, hey, yeah, there is a problem, or we don't know why either. But when talking to Margaret, what we would like is to possibly have an always stop needed, is a signal needed there. We just wanted to have an outside third party look at it and see if something we were missing. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I can answer any questions.
Hey, John, I have a question. I guess 8 now crashes that you were talking about, are they primarily vulnerable road users? Are they primarily vehicle to vehicle?
Almost every single one's been vehicle to vehicle.
Okay.
In fact, the one I was out there about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I pulled up right when they're there because I happened to be going through the intersection on the way back from another field review. As soon as I turned on Rainbow Road, I go, you gotta be kidding. Another crash. And I stopped and talked to the PD who were there. And the lady coming from the east going west saw a northbound car turning right. And as they slowed down, went to shoot across the intersection, did not see the vehicle in the left turn lane making a northbound left, and they hit. So, but again, there's no sight visibility problems out there. The median's pretty much clear. There's no trees on the corner, so we just don't know why it's happening. It's all car to car.
Thanks.
So if I could just interject really quick here, we can take some more questions. I just wanted to mention that in my discussions with John, I just wanted to remind him that one of the things that we like to do in these types of cases is do a detailed review of the actual crash reports. And so we'll be putting some, part of that increased budget was to provide some time for, to do specifically that work, as well as the site observation.
Yes, thank you, Margaret. Yes. Any other questions?
I had a question, John.
Yeah.
with the construction of that subdivision you discussed, was there any approach to warrant for that signal based on that new traffic?
No, Keith, no, that's a good question. The traffic study they did not project a lot of new cars going through that intersection. So I think it's just because of completing the loop, a lot more cars just relocated to that intersection than we probably foresaw happening.
Thank you.
Hey, John, this is Mazen with McDowell. Good morning. Just wondering if any of the accidents involved any pedestrians and bicyclists, please, on that intersection?
Mazen, no, from what the quick cursory review I did of the crash data did not show any pedestrians or bicycles. It's all vehicle to vehicle so far. So, I mean, I guess that's a positive, but still not a good thing.
Okay.
That's something that we could definitely look at in site observations as a proactive
Yes.
measure.
Mr. Sam, I had a question. Do you guys have any funding set aside for improvements here yet, or is that something you'd look?
No, Sam, at this time, we didn't know what needed to be done. If it's a short, quick answer is always stop, then yeah, our public works will go out and put stop signs up. If it's a signal comes out of here, hopefully I can find some money to put the signal in. This is not a typical signal location in Buckeye, but if that's what the study comes back and says we need a signal, the nice thing is it's only a signal, not a whole lot of intersection improvements because the intersection is built out. It's been built out for several years.
Hey, John, one more question. What was the dominant crash types on that intersection?
The dominant crash type, I think angled. So I think people going east-west, cutting across and either being hit by a north-south or they're pretty much being hit by a north-south vehicle.
All right, thank you. Thank you, John. If there's no other questions for John.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
All right, I think that wraps up the presentations. Any last word on that, Margaret?
Nope. I guess the only other thing I'd like to say is once these, we'll move into assigning consultants for these projects, just as we do RSAs. And I believe, Mohammed, we're looking at doing these in the month of May. Is that accurate? Okay, so we'll have an agenda item coming up in the RSAs.
This is John real quick. It'd be nice to do the count in May because just to make sure we get the student or any vehicles associated with the school. So, thank you.
All right, I don't think there was any action on that item, so we'll move on to item number 7. This is the fiscal year 2023 recommended road safety assessment projects. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion. Fiscal year 22-23 MEG Biennial Unified Planning Work Program and Budget approved by MEG Regional Council on May 26, 2021 includes $200,000 for the Road Safety Assessment RSA program. A working group has identified a list of the projects to be funded. The committee will review and recommend the final list of RSA projects. The list of fiscal year 23 RSA projects recommended by the work group is provided in attachment B of our agenda packet today. MEG Transportation Engineer 3, Mohammed Shaheed, will provide a brief presentation on this item. Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. As you know, based on the annual network screening process, we identified top 100 intersections here in the MEG region. And based on that top 100 intersection list, we convened the RSA working group meeting to discuss about potential RSA locations for this round's RSA. So the RSA working group went through the top 100 location and went through some site-specific analysis for many of the intersections or locations and came up and finally recommended from different agencies different locations, which resulted in 1 corridor and 9 intersections, totaling in 5 RSS for this spring, with a total budget of 200,000. As you can see from this list, we have 5 RSAs with 1 corridor RSA and rest of the 4 intersection RSAs. One thing to note is that the intersection RSAs do involve multiple intersections as part of a single RSA. And we have 1 corridor RSA in Glendale from 59th Avenue to 67th Avenue on Glendale Avenue. You can see the total budget for each RSA task order totaling in 200,000. At this point, would be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mohammed on that? All right, hearing none, we'll move right along to agenda item 8. And then item 8 is the ADOT statewide network screening. This item is for information discussion. And I would invite ADOT's traffic safety section to provide the committee a presentation on this item if we do have ADOT with us today.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Saroja. She's going to be filling in for Carrie today. Saroja, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Margaret, and members of the Transportation Safety Committee. I'll be presenting the ADOT statewide network screening today. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Mohammed, do you have the slides? Thank you. So today I'll be going over the ADOT network screening process and the 2022 network screening listings that were generated using the latest 5-year crash data. Next slide, please. So at ADOT, we follow the Arizona Circle of Safety. We start our process at network screening. We use fatal and serious injury crashes as our criteria to identify our hotspot locations. And then we review the hotspot locations with our regional traffic engineers, the RSA team, HSIP team, and the district engineers. We identify locations for RSA, and based on the RSAs and the recommendations, the countermeasures that come from the RSA, if they are things that can be implemented using a work order, the RTEs will implement that. Any countermeasures that are recommended from the RSA need a project, then they are moved to planning and programming. We work with our multi-modal planning division for programming and scoping the safety countermeasures as projects, and then move it to the next step with our design team, with our IDO team, to design and implement and construct these countermeasures. And we continue doing our annual network screening and reviewing these locations and how the implemented countermeasures are helping the hotspot locations. Next slide, please. So the network screening process uses the latest 5-year crash data, and we screen for highest fatal and serious injury crash locations. We categorize these under intersections, segments, and ramp listings. We look at both state highway system as well as local system intersections. And at this time, we only look at state highway system segments. And so once we identify the top 25 locations under each category, we look for locations for actionable countermeasures like work order, a roadway safety assessment, or moving it to a capital project for designing and implementing the safety countermeasures. Next slide, please. So our categories under which we group our listings are, for statewide, we do intersections signalized, and from the top, and each of these listings have 25 top locations with high fatal and serious injury crashes. And for intersections signalized, we create 2 listings, one with the local intersections, local agency intersections. The other top 25 listing signalized is for state highway system maintained signalized intersections. We do the same thing for non-signalized intersection listings as well. We create 2 listings, one for the local agencies and the other for state highway maintained non-signalized intersections. Segments, we only do for state highway system. We create a top 25 listing for 1-mile segments, We also create a top 25 listing for lane departure crashes along state highway system. And we also create a top 25 listing for state highway system ramps. Then we also generate a table to see what are the common fatal and serious injury crash types that have contributed, that happened in the last 5 years. And we also create a listing of most common fatal and serious injury driver violations that contributed to the most fatal and serious injury crashes in the last 5 years. The other groupings that we do is by ADAR district. We have 7 ADAR districts, and for each district, we do state highway segments, signalized intersections, non-signalized intersections maintained by state highway system, and we also generate top 5 signalized and non-signalized for local agencies in that district. So we zoom into each ADAR district and we create these listings, and this district listings are usually top 5 and not top 25 like the statewide. Next slide, please. So once we generate these listings, we work with our ADAR groups, the regional traffic engineers, the district's engineers office, our RSA team, our HSIP team, and we also share these listings with the impacted local agencies. And the RTEs, they coordinate for the top 5 locations in each of the category, and they provide us recommendations to the safety team, and we include that in our listings. Local agencies, at this time, we share the listings and request them for input, but we can only encourage them, but we cannot require similar recommendations as we require it from our ADAR RTEs and district engineers office. Next slide, please. So once we work with our regional RTEs, RSA, HSIP, and district engineers office, and once we receive the agency input, we compile all these listings and the input into an annual network screening report. This report will inform us of our traffic safety priorities. Our eventual goal is to shift our network screening process from a frequency-based to a predictive modeling-based. But that is our goal that we are working towards. We have a couple of projects that are in works. We have hired a consultant to develop AZ-specific SPFs. They are in the initial phase of this project. So eventually, we are also having another project where we are working on finding the replacement for our predictive modeling AASHTO-Aware Safety Analyst tool. As many of you know, that AASHTO-Aware Safety Analyst application sunset last summer. So we are in the process of identifying and replacing that tool with the latest available application. And once we acquire and implement that application and we develop AZ-specific SPFs, we plan to transition our network screening from a frequency-based to a predictive modeling-based network screening. Next slide, please. So the next few slides, I'll be showing you the 2022 network screening listings. These listings are generated using the 2017 to 2021 crash data. Next slide, please. In this slide, you are looking at the top 25 locations for non-signalized local agency intersections. And if you see the red rectangle, we usually put that for the top 5 listings, but we share this listing with all the member agencies who have a location in this top 25. So we shared this with the jurisdiction, the Phoenix, Pinal, Tucson, Maricopa County, Tempe, along with the MPO and COG. So that they can check it with their annual network screening to see where they fall. We recently received input from Phoenix and Tucson, and we are updating our comments based on their input. So this is our format. We have the location, the intersection, the jurisdiction, the COG. KNA totals are the criteria used for ranking these locations. We summarize the crashes. We summarize the primary fatal and serious injury causing crash type. And we also see where this location was in the last 5-year network screening as well. Next slide, please. In this listing, you are seeing the non-signalized intersections along state highway system. Again, this is in a similar format. Intersection name followed by traffic control, ADOT district, DPS district, and FHWA district, along with ADOT region. We added these additional district information because we present our annual network screening to DPS and FHWA on an annually, and they always they've requested to see which region it falls so that they can support us with enforcement or provide input on these locations. As you can see, there are a couple rows where the text is highlighted in red and the rows are highlighted as well. These are the locations where there were no previous RSAs conducted in the last 5 years, or there were no projects or that are either built or programmed or in construction. So these locations are identified by the RTEs for an RSA, and the RSA team has added it to their list, and they'll be working on conducting RSAs at these locations. Next slide, please. In this slide, you're looking at the top 25 locations for the signalized intersections in the local agency network. Again, these are top 25. You see the intersection, ADOT district jurisdiction, MPO cog, same format as the non-signalized listing. And the red rectangle shows the top 5. We shared this listing again with all the member agencies, the jurisdiction and the cog MPOs, where location, where they had a hot location that fell in this top 25. So we shared it with Phoenix, Tucson, Glendale, Flagstaff, MAG, PAG, FMPO. We recently received Phoenix and Tucson inputs, and we have updated our comments per their input. Next slide, please. In this slide, we are summarizing the signalized intersections maintained by the state. Similar format as the non-signalized locations. These listings were shared with our RTEs and district engineers, RSA and HSIP team. The red text rows are the ones where there was no previous RSA conducted in the last 5 years, or countermeasures implemented, work orders, or projects in construction, in programmed, or planned, or studies that are conducted, any safety countermeasures that were not implemented. So these were identified as locations for RSA, future RSA, and we shared these locations with our RSA team. Next slide, please. In this slide, we are summarizing the top 25 locations for segments, 1 mile segments along state highway system. And again, this is in the similar format. The red text rows are the ones where there were no RSAs or planned or projects under design or in construction. So these are identified for potential next steps, and these have been shared with our RSA team. Next slide, please. So we generate our 1 mile lane departure hotspot locations using the same criteria of fatal and serious injury crashes. We generate the top 25 listings, and we review these again with our ADOT groups. And when the RSA team is working on programming and doing an RSA, they look at locations in the vicinity of that location. If there are locations in this listing of state highway system lane departure crashes, they also include that and try to combine them as they are going in that direction. Say, for example, they are doing something on I-10, or if this one overlaps with one of the state highway segment crashes, they try to look for locations in the vicinity of their RSA and include and expand their limits so that they can take a closer look at the expanded length of the corridor, then just zoom in and do the RSA for 1 mile segment. So this one we generate every year to see if this one, if there are locations that overlap with our segments, or if they are in the vicinity, so that they can be reviewed and improved as our RSA team is doing RSAs for the state highway system segments. Next slide, please. Same thought process, we generate our top 25 ramp locations for using the same criteria of high fatal and serious injury crashes. And we share this listing with our TSDs and our RSA team. So if they are reviewing if a segment for a project or design or RSA, they will look at these ramp segments and see and combine them into their review and study, so that they can look at the corridor and the ramps together and see how they can come up with countermeasures that will improve the safety of the corridor and the ramps together. Next slide, please. Then we look at the crash types that contributed to the most fatal and serious injury crashes, both at intersections and segments for state highway system, along state highway system. And we try to zoom into the categories on the top 5. Like for example, sorry, this is a violation type. So at intersections, failure to yield, speed too fast, disregarded traffic signal, ran stop sign, and failed to keep in proper lane were the top violation that contributed to the fatal and serious injury crashes. And for segments, it was speed too fast, failed to keep in proper lane, unsafe lane change, drove left center line, and cross median that were on the top 5. So we look at these crash types and share this input with our RSA team. So when they are reviewing those RSA locations, they will take a closer look as they are zooming in and reviewing the crashes. The reason we try to zoom into the violation types and things is to understand where these are happening and what could be done. Are there curves? Are there what are some of the things that they can do to help improve safety at these locations as they are reviewing as part of their RSAs. Next slide, please. We also generate this for the statewide crashes, and we provide this listing to the local agencies and the state team. We provide this listing for intersections only for statewide data. Again, the top 5 include failure to yield, right-of-way, speed too fast, disregard traffic signal. And you can see that in this listing, the 4th one is did not use crosswalk, which means when we looked at the statewide data, the crosswalk did not use crosswalk, which could be the pedestrian crashes came up compared to the state highway system violation intersection listing, where failure to keep in proper lane was the number 4. So we look at both statewide data as well as crashes along state highway system to understand the violation types that are contributing for the most fatal and serious injury crashes. Next slide, please. We generate similar tables for crash types as well to understand what were the most common crash types occurring at intersections and what are the common crash types that are contributing to the most fatal and serious injury crashes along segments. And again, share this listing and also look for locations along state highway system where the angle crashes, the most, for example, fatal and serious injury angle crashes are occurring if they fell in the top 25 intersection signalized or non-signalized listing, or if they are in the vicinity of one of those listings that are identified for RSA, and we share that information with our RSA team so that they can look at this intersection as well if it is in the vicinity as they are going for an RSA in that area. So this is another listing or tables that we generate and share with our RSA team. Next slide, please. And we do a similar table for using the statewide data for intersections, and we share this with ADOT groups as well as with our local agencies, impacted local agencies, so they can also understand the crash types that have contributed to the most fatal and serious injury crashes along statewide intersections. Next slide, please. So once we generate these listings, all these listings are in table format. So we started creating GIS shapefiles, and we have a ACES GIS web viewer map, which has latest 5-year crash data by year so that it is easy to load on the web viewer map, along with the regional boundaries, state boundaries, agency boundaries, speed limits, the previous HPMS year AADT, annual AADT data for the latest year, and some of the roadway geometry information like bike lanes, signals, barrier, ITS infrastructure. Most of these shapefiles that we add for the roadway information we receive from our MPD GIS. So if the local agency infrastructure information is coordinated and updated in the MPD GIS, that will be in the ACES GIS web viewer map. And we, on an annual basis, we add our network screening locations to the same map. So it is available for all the ACES users and the ADAR groups to go in and view these locations and identify any of these locations in the vicinity. The red ones are the hotspots identified for RSA. The other ones, the blue locations, are the other locations in the top 25 listing. We also have a shapefile of the RSAs that have been completed in the last 4 years, and we try to update that shapefile on an annual or a semi-annual basis, so that they know where an RSA was recently completed and where one is in works, so we can identify the next locations for RSAs or any field visits. So we've developed and we maintain this ACES GIS web viewer map, and we load our annual network screening listings to that. Next screen, please. That ends my presentation. Any questions?
So Roger, good morning.
Yes.
This is Matt. Good information. Thanks for sharing. I got a couple of questions for you, please. So it seems the trend on the data collections to go with the top 25, lines there. Is there a reason for that?
So
versus top 100 or top 50?
So we have the listing for, so the way the process works at ADAR is we first generate a listing for all the locations with 2 or more fatal and serious injury crashes.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, we create the top 25 listings to take a closer look with our ADAR groups. So as you've noticed that most of these locations, either we have an RSA conducted in the last 4 years, or we have one program. So once we have, the top 25 have something either in works or completed improvements in the top 25, we move the slide of the 25 list locations down.
Mm-hmm.
So even though there may be few that may have come from a previous year crashes, it may have triggered to the top, but since there was an RSA and a countermeasure that was implemented in the last 5 years, that will be monitored, but we move our listings to take a closer look. We slide that table down to the next 25. But we do have a listing of all the locations with 2 or more fatal and serious injury crashes.
Okay, sounds good. As far as sharing the data with other agencies, now, do you basically go with those that showed up on the list being local agencies that have issues that you want to share with them, or is it available to everybody that needs to look at them?
So at this time, we've been sharing it with the agencies, local agencies that have locations in a statewide signalized or non-signalized location, or district signalized and non-signalized locations. But if the other agencies are interested, they can reach out to us and we can share the listing with them. And the ACES map is available with the network screening listings in the map, the shapefile, and that map is available for all ACES users. When you open ACES and you click on that web viewer map, everybody should be able to see the listings.
Okay, sounds good. One final question, please. Sorry to take too much time. Is that, do you also conduct any road segment for local roads?
At this time, our network screening process only looks at 1 mile segments along state highway system, because our query criteria uses the milepost segments. But as our MPD GIS is working on consolidating and including the local agency data, and if we start getting the milepost limits so that we can better define the roadway segments for network screening, we may expand it to local agency roadway segments as well.
Thank you, Suraj. A good presentation.
Thank you.
Sarosha, thank you very much. Any other last question for her before we move on?
Mr. Chair, not a question, just Saroj, I just wanted to thank you for presenting today and also for providing the information not only to MAG, but to the member agencies. It really impresses on me the speed aspect on the local segments was much greater than the second failed to keep in proper lane, over 2,000 compared to the next one of 700 and something, I believe. But it was very useful as well. It came at a very good time. I was just reviewing the Avondale Local Agency Safety Studies application, and I wanted to see if the ramp, I think it's 137 or 139, I can't remember, fell in your network screening, and it didn't look like it did, but very good information. And also to keep in kind of coordination, making sure we're not overlapping our efforts between your RSA program and ours. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Margaret.
Can I just ask one quick question? Tempe has a location on the non-signalized top 25 intersections. Are you still waiting on feedback from us for that?
Yes.
Okay.
We have not received any input yet. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Very well done on that presentation. Thank you. Good stuff. All right, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, and that's reports by committee members. I would like to invite any member of the Transportation Safety Committee to report on any ongoing safety-related project activities at their jurisdiction. Let's first begin in the room here, and we'll go around the table, and then I'll ask Mohammed to do a virtual around the room. Well, maybe start with John. John, do we have anything in Buckeye?
The only key thing is they are trying to rehire me. So I guess last summer they promoted me up to an official city traffic engineer title. So we're looking to hire again a senior civil parentheses traffic engineer. So that's on the street. So I'm looking to, as I jokingly say, rehire me. Other than that, reminder, if you drive I-10, just be careful. It's still a nightmare. And it will be for another 3 or 4 months to finish the I-10 project. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Update from Tempe. In March, we had many more serious and fatal crashes than we expected, than we had this time last year. So that has kind of raised on our radar the need to target education more than we have been. We've been focusing a lot on enforcement and engineering. So we are looking for ideas, honestly, on education campaigns, and we especially want to target our high schools. So I'm probably going to be reaching out to Margaret and Mohammed to see kind of like what materials we have available. But if anybody wants to partner with us on something like that, we're open to all suggestions at this point.
Thank you. Shane with the City of AJ. I don't have a report today. Thank you. We'll move on to Sam Scottsdale.
Yeah, not much to report. We are getting close to, not real close, but towards the end of the year, we're going to be publishing our biannual volume and collision report for the City of Scottsdale. That's where we keep track of all of our crashes. It's kind of our way of doing network screening as well. So that's all I have.
Adrian Reese with Valley Metro. So our agency safety plan is due to go to the board in May. That's our key performance metrics for bus and rail. We continue to assess and look on mitigations for our red signal overruns, as well as vehicle left turn crashes with light rail, and the bus crashes and preventable with bus crashes. Overall, we also have an internal safety plan that we've conducted for our staff. But bottom line is our activity in the 19th corridor, our signage, and we're putting up 3 additional fences. One is in response to an RSA that was conducted a couple of years ago. So the focus is 19th and Camelback, south side of our platform, Central and Thomas, east side of the platform, and then 7th Avenue and Camelback on the north side of the platform to reduce the PED crossings mid-block.
Sergeant on DPS, nothing to report.
All right, thank you for everybody in the room. I don't think I missed anybody. Mohammed, if we could do a virtual around the room.
Sure, Mr. Chair, member of the Transportation Safety Committee. Saroja, as proxy for Kerry from ADOT.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Raj Thoran from City of Avondale.
Yeah, regarding safety projects, we are trying to identify the uncontrolled crosswalks in the city. Then find out, I mean, like what countermeasures needed to make sure that this uncontrolled cross are, you know, protected. I mean, the members of the city are protected properly. I mean, like we noticed a lot of jaywalking near the high schools and elementary schools. So we're trying to see, we're trying to find out what the current the speeds are, and then implement the countermeasures like, you know, speed humps and neck downs and stuff like that. So we are working on that kind of project in the city.
Right. Thank you. Tony Abbo from City of Glendale.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. No, I have nothing to comment on other than we're getting real close to advertising the Camelback and 53rd Avenue Hawk. So we're hoping that within the next month or month and a half that we get that out on the street.
Thank you. Kate Drunaski from Litchfield Park.
Thank you. We're in our 4th month of our multi-lane roundabout being open here on Litchfield Road, just north of Wigwam. We've only had 3 accidents. 2 of them were impaired drivers, and one of them was in a Corvette they only had for about a week and decided to test Corvette versus Palm Tree coming out of the roundabout. So we have over 22,000 cars a day on Litchfield Road. So those are some pretty good numbers. And we've been getting nothing but praise. It's a pretty slick roundabout. So coming out and drive through it if you're in the West Valley. Other than that, nothing else.
Just really quick, Keith, I'm very curious. Is that just a traditional roundabout or is it a turbo roundabout?
Traditional. Majority of the design and construction actually happened before I got here, and so they kept it pretty traditional. It was designed by RTE, who's done a lot of the roundabouts in the valley.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Kerry Osborne from City of Maricopa.
Thank you. Nothing to report at this time.
Mazen Muradovich from Maricopa County.
Good morning, everybody. So Maricopa County DOT is gearing up on the most recent awarded HSIP funded projects related to 2 projects in FY24 and FY25. So we are currently working on preparing the project initiation package so that we can submit it to ADOT. And then /MAG in order for us to get started with the design in FY24. One will undertake friction course, high friction surface treatment on all US 80, and the other one would be a passing lane on Winnisburg Road 2-mile segment. That's all I have. Thank you.
Stefan Beck from City of Mesa.
Members of the MAC Safety Committee, I would like to mention some safety-related projects here in Mesa. important active CIPs include Sossaman Baseline, an intersection widening, which is expected to be completed in August 23. Ray Road between Haas and Ellsworth will finish design soon and is expected to be in construction in August 23. Also, an intersection improvement is included in that project and other offsite improvements. Sossaman between Ray and Warner, a major project here in Mesa, will go to bid in summer and hopefully in construction in November 2023. The Eastern Canal Shared Use Path will include signalized canal crossings, and signal butte improvements are now wrapping up. Construction is almost complete, which consisted mostly of utility port widening and intersection upgrades. We are currently exploring enhanced crossings on Dobson Road as traffic volumes have increased and more development has occurred, and more and more pedestrians are crossing Dobson mid-block. Pedestrian and bike serious injury and fatal crashes have historically always been a hot topic, and pedestrian bike mid-block crashes have been very significant on Dobson Road, and we hope to reduce them significantly. And photo safety funds are being targeted for this effort. I also want to mention briefly that serious injury and fatal crashes have been on the rise since the pandemic, and this has been mentioned before by other members. And Mesa Transportation is currently working with fire and police on campaign ideas to reduce serious crashes and fatal crashes, targeting especially the younger population. Mesa Transportation developed serious injury and fatality heat maps and data as a reasoning to support a partnership with both agencies. And the city of Phoenix presented their campaign ideas and their comprehensive plan to battle these serious injury and fatal crashes. And we are really grateful for that. Members of the MAG Safety Committee, thank you for the opportunity to present these items. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon Furry from City of Peoria.
No updates from Peoria.
Carl Langford from City of Phoenix.
Good morning, everyone. One item to mention for City of Phoenix. So our recent road safety action plan that was passed by council, one of the components of that is a community action advisory group. We have just recently reached out to our final kind of members. We added some student members to be part of that committee. And so our first meeting will actually take place this next month with that advisory committee. So looking forward to hearing input from the community on our items.
Thank you. Tara Harman from Pinal County.
Nothing to report from Pinal County at this time. Thank you.
Yan Martin from Town of Queen Creek. Dana Oziani from City of Surprise.
No report today, thanks.
Are there any participants that I have missed?
Yeah, Chandler. This is Raymond Huang with City of Chandler.
Yes.
So the only thing we have is the Fry Road separate bike path projects. That's getting to 95% design. We are currently evaluating a few of the delineator options that we have. We're getting close to pin down to the last 2 or 3 treatment that we prefer. Constructions would be following after the design pretty soon. That's what we have.
Thank you. That concludes the report from the virtual attendees, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, everybody, for those reports. So we'll move on to item 10, which is request for future agenda items. This is the time now, if there's any items that the Transportation Safety Committee members feel of any topics that they want to put on for the future agenda item. So please speak now. All right, we're hearing none. That doesn't mean that you can connect with myself or Margaret after meeting if you have future topics for consideration or adding to agenda in the future. All right, we'll move on to 11, and that is the next meeting date and place. Next meeting of this committee, the Transportation Safety Committee, will be held at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. Attendance in person is encouraged in the MAG second floor Ironwood room where we're at here today, some of us. And of course, we'll have some virtual options will be available as well. So we'll go ahead and I'll move to adjourn, and so I guess we'll adjourn at this time, which is, looks like 11:26. And please, everybody stay safe until we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.